44 minutes after the hour on the Michael Medved Show, and religion, of course, celebrates what religious believers consider to be eternal verities. And one of the eternal truths that Christopher Hitchens, I know, will have no trouble at all reconciling himself to is that in radio we have hard breaks, which means when we come up to a commercial, we have to even interrupt a fascinating story that he was in the midst of about, he is the author of God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything, and he was talking about an engagement in which he participated in Coral Gables, Florida, with spokespeople from Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And new, Mr. Hitchens?
And a Buddhist nun as well. It sounds like the opening of some joke, a Buddhist nun and a rabbi and a priest come into a bar and so on.
And meet Christopher Hitchens, yeah, that's a good one. Go ahead.
Barman says, is this some kind of joke? But anyway, since I'm willing to take on all comers, and since I think my book shows that I'm quite interested in religion and not completely ignorant of it either, generally speaking, the uptake has been very friendly, and Christianity Today website asked me to debate with one of their champions over on their web over the course of about 4-5 weeks. Hugh Hewitt, who you probably know is a very good conservative religious broadcaster, had me on for 3 hours with his choice of a Presbyterian, and anyone can look these things up.
Yes, I actually heard some of my friend Hugh's show in which you participated. But my point was, generally, has the reception to your book from religious communities surprised you at all in terms of its geniality and its mildness?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I wrote the book in the hope of evoking precisely this response. I wanted to put heart into the increasingly strong atheist community in the country, of course, but I also wanted to take the war to the enemy, if that doesn't sound like an unfriendly thing to say, to issue a challenge and to see if I could improve my own arguments in the course of doing that. And the second thing probably has succeeded better than I had hoped it would, and without seeming to be self-righteous about it, I think it is partly because these faiths are not held with as much confidence as even you implied when we started. I think there's a good deal of doubt in the religious communities, a great deal of uncertainty, a lot of division. They've taken a fantastic battering over this stupid question of creationism, for example, recently. The unwise ones among them have, while the others have sort of slightly hung back on the point. I don't think, in other words, that religious allegiance in this country is as uniform or as monolithic as many people believe.
But who believes that? You see, this is one of the problems that I have with big chunks of your book. And every once in a while there'll be a glimmering that you get it. But then you'll go back to what you'll pardon me, with all respect, I would consider more of a grade school view of religion. Your belief or your contention that, finally, well, in America there's a good deal of doubt. For God's sake, you can read the works of Moses Maimonides in the 11th century. And he was full of doubt and answering doubt. One of his major works, written in Arabic, by the way, is called A Guide to the Perplexed, which is written to a non-believer at that time. So this idea that we have originally discovered in the United States in the year 2007, the idea that questioning religion can actually strengthen faith.
Michael, I think you misunderstand me. You began by saying how religious a country this was. I who said, I don't think that that's true. I don't claim it as a new discovery either. By the way, I mentioned Maimonides a number of times in my...
I know, sometimes very inaccurately.
You think so?
I know so.
You think he did?
In fact, I just checked some of the sources today.
Well, there are three things that I think people that generally don't know about him that I mentioned. Well, one is his appalling attitude to genital mutilation. The other is his feeling that...
You call circumcision genital mutilation, but go ahead.
Well, yes, that's what it is. And he said it's designed to make sex as unpleasant as possible. Second, his view, which I only partly share, that you should only mention the name of Jesus Christ when...
Okay, Maimonides never wrote that. And you see, this is one of the things, I think you may be relying on Nazi websites or anti-Semitic websites.
Michael, I'm sorry, I'll have to leave if you don't take that back. I'll have to put down the phone. Excuse me, take that back now, or I have to hang up.
Oh, I will take it back if you can indicate to me what your source is for the way you quote Maimonides on... Maimonides actually said very kind things about both Islam and Christianity. And you may be conflating Maimonides with other rabbis who preceded him.
No.
By close to 1,000 years.
By the way, I don't insist that people be kind about each other's religions. I keep telling you that it's when they stick together, as in the cases of the blasphemy matters that I mentioned earlier, that I distrust them the most. But I've checked very carefully with rabbinical sources about what Maimonides said. I wrote it up earlier, in fact, in my commentary on the vile fascist Mel Gibson and his terrible film, which I think you defended for some reason I can't understand.
I did. I thought it was a powerful and informative film.
A disgusting exercise in fascist sadomasochers and open incitement to Jew baiting, in my opinion. But it was there again that I brought up the undoubted fact that Maimonides said that the Sanhedrin was exactly right to do this to this appalling heretic and blasphemer. Now, if you can show me that that's not true, I will be incredibly impressed, and so will all the rabbinical sources whom I was so careful to consult.
Okay,
I don't think you'll deny either that he did say that there were some species of people who were just beyond the reach of this kind of argument, that it was not worth bothering with people whose nature was essentially bovine. Why not face it? The early writers about religion, from Aquinas to Augustine to Maimonides to Muhammad, were very primitive people, full of fear and prejudice, and it's really important that we emancipate ourselves from this kind of thing.
Okay, you see, again, for you to compare Muhammad and Maimonides seems to me to be terribly unfair, and part of what I consider to be the biggest problem in the book is taking anyone who has defended religion. For instance, you have great contempt for C.S. Lewis, which you express time and time again in the pages of God is Not Great. But we have a chance to continue exploring some of these disagreements as we continue with Christopher Hitchens, the author of God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything.
The Michael Medved.
55 minutes after the hour with Christopher Hitchens, who is always provocative, always articulate, and has written a very challenging book, particularly for those of us who are religious believers. It is called God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. Let's go very quickly to a caller, to Frank in Tampa, Florida. Frank, you're on the Michael Medved Show with Christopher Hitchens.
Mr. Hitchens, isn't it true that it's not religion? Religion is merely a vehicle that poisons everything. If it wasn't religion that poisoned, it would be national identity or political belief or ethnicity. It's man who corrupts. To say that religion poisons everything ignores the nature of man and ignores, in fact, all the good that religion has done throughout history. Hospitals, education, recording history. It was religion that maintained Europe through the Dark Ages.
Well, to answer your question in reverse, I mean, religion was just as responsible for destroying libraries, for repressing knowledge, for opposing the spread of it, and especially for fighting scientific and medical innovation. But you may be right that people would have been stupid enough to do that anyway. And I don't disagree with you that what we're partly faced with is the fact that we are the conclusion that religion generally opposes members of a poorly evolved, still evolving mammal species, only half a chromosome away from a chimpanzee. Of course, there are going to be tribal fights and turf wars amongst us. The problem with religion is it's a tremendous reinforcer of these matters. I mean, why are most Arabs Muslims? Because it's identified with it being Arab. Why are most Poles Catholics? Because it's identified very strongly with Polish nationalism and so on. It's a huge reinforcement of existing tribal and ethnic divisions, which science and reason have shown to us, as has the sequencing of our genome, are completely man-made constructs, have no basis in reality of any kind. Religion obscures the view, however, that would enable us to step away from, outgrow that kind of backwardness and superstition. It's very heavily invested in illiteracy, and ignorance, and always has been.
Okay, I've got a bit of a problem here. The largest church in the world is the Catholic Church, which is truly Catholic, is it not? There are people of every color.
That's what Catholic means.
I beg pardon?
That's actually what Catholic means.
I know. It is truly Catholic. It is Catholic in the sense of drawing people of every ethnicity, of every nationality, and making them part of one church. So to say that that church somehow keeps people separate and locked into their